Game time!
Warning. Contains adult content including harsh language, violence, and sexual themes, and may not be suitable for people under age 17.
Tilly Travers stared dismally up at the large brick building in front of her. It wasn't very pretty, being one of the older structures in the city. The sign on the front said, Van Houten Boarding House. Tilly didn't know much about this place, but she really had no other options. 2 months ago, Tilly had gotten laid off from her job because the company was going out of business. Because of this, she could no longer afford her apartment, and she unfortunately did not have any friends for her to stay with until she could find another job. Distressed and desperate, Tilly scanned the newspapers and web listings for a place to live, and luckily found a boarding house that she could afford with her unemployment checks. She'd take residence there until she could get another job and find someplace better. Tilly didn't have friends because she lost touch with everyone she knew in high school after graduation, and then her life was too focused on college and work, trying to keep herself financially stable. Eventually, she was forced to drop out of college because she couldn't afford tuition, and once she did, she had started to do a little better, until she lost her job, of course. She hated the economy. So the poor 24-year-old girl packed up what little possessions she had and drove her crappy mud-green 1984 Chevrolet down to the sketchy part of the city to her new home. She had only spoken to the superintendent, Eliza Van Houten, over the phone, and had never even seen the boarding house itself until she arrived. Tilly sighed, moving the fringe of her shoulder-length brunette hair out of her dark brown eyes, and pushed up her glasses, finally entering the building. It was surprisingly dim inside, and there was a heavy feeling of dust. The only sound was an odd metallic squeaking that seemed a short distance away. Tilly looked around, seeing that the main room was quite empty, save for a wooden staircase, a few side tables, a vase that looked as though it had been broken and hastily glued back together, a picture frame with a completely black picture, and many closed doors. Following the squeaking sound, Tilly found a small cage sitting on one of the tables. Running on a metal wheel inside was a very fat and fluffy teddy bear hamster. She couldn't help but smile at the little rodent, which paid no attention to her as it sprinted continuously.
Cute, ain't he?
Said a low, smooth voice, and Tilly started, whipping around to see a very attractive man leaning against the wall adjacent to her, arms crossed over his chest. He had straight hair that seemed unnaturally black, and it fell to his jawline messily, bangs resting carelessly in his face. Tilly wasn't sure if it was the lack of proper lighting, but his skin looked stone white, his eyes glinting scarlet, and he had very dark shadows beneath them, almost as if he didn't get much sleep. The man wore a tight black t-shirt, black skinny jeans, and black Converse, and was quite tall and lanky. Yeah, he is, she said nervously. She felt intimidated by this man, and almost excited, as if being in the same room with him was a sort of reckless act of dangerous rebellion. Is he yours?
No, he belongs to Eliza,
replied the man, walking nearer to her. His strides were amazingly graceful, and as he stood next to Tilly, he seemed to be giving off a complete lack of body heat, and in fact, the air grew suddenly colder.
But we think of him as a resident. What's your name?
Tilly Travers, she replied. Gazing into his eyes, she saw that they were indeed a bright red.
I'm Randy,
he said, placing one white hand in his pocket.
But I go by Raz. Honest to God, I don't remember my last name.
How do you not remember your own she began, but was interrupted by a door opening beside them, and her attention was drawn away from Raz. Oh, you must be the new tenant, said a cheerful young woman. Her appearance was even more strange than Raz's. She wore attractive blue jeans, but also a long-sleeved black turtleneck with white gloves, even though it was summer. The woman was also wearing quite a lot of foundation on her face, attractive glasses that were mildly tinted green, hiding her eye color, and a doctor's mask over her mouth, except it seemed for fashion, as there was a yellow smiley face on it. Lastly, her bobbed hair was a vibrant tomato red and looked synthetic. Yes, said Tilly, shaking the woman's gloved hand as she held it out. My name is Tilly Travers. What a cute name, she exclaimed, her voice very warm and slightly more high-pitched than Tilly's. I'm Eliza. We spoke on the phone. And I see you've met Raz. Hope he's not giving you any trouble. Her black eyebrows that looked drawn on with eyebrow pencil contracted as she turned her attention to the man, who shrugged.
"I not doing nothing, ma'am,"
he said smoothly, grinning. Tilly gasped, seeing his teeth for the first time. Not only were they the whitest teeth she had ever seen, but he also had fangs.
"Though I'd be happy to give little Tilly the tour, and then maybe show her the rest of the house."
He gave a very suggestive laugh, and Tilly blushed. "Oh, get out of here, you perv!" Eliza exclaimed, and Raz chuckled again, turning to wink at Tilly before trotting up the stairs. Did he have fangs?" she asked Eliza tentatively. "Oh my, you don't know about this place, do you?" When Tilly didn't answer, Eliza tensed uncomfortably. "I was wondering why you appeared so normal. Miss Travers, this boarding house is not for, your average person." "What do you mean?" asked Tilly, tilting her head slightly. "Well, all of the residents are special. For instance, Raz has fangs because he's a vampire." There was a sharp silence between the two of them for a moment, and then Tilly laughed nervously. You mean he's into vampirism?" she asked, knowing that a large amount of people pretend, and sometimes actually believe, that they are vampires. "No, honey," Eliza said, trying to sound gentle so as to not alarm Tilly. "He's a real vampire. He's lost track of his age by now, but we know he's at least 300-something. He's lived here for decades, having known my entire family through the generations, including the founder of the boarding house." Are you a vampire?" Tilly squeaked, though she was surprised at how well she was taking this. "No, Raz is the only one," she replied, and then slipped off her left glove, holding up what should have been a hand, but there was nothing there. Tilly actually let out a short, light scream. "I'm completely invisible. My whole family was. That's why I'm wearing all of this clothing and makeup, so that I can be seen." She took off her glasses, pulled down her mask, and opened her mouth wide. Inside her mouth, as well as both eyes, was absolute empty blackness. "Oh, my," Tilly whimpered, feeling faint. Eliza covered her face again. "Yeah, I find I'm much more attractive by hiding what I can't paint with makeup," she giggled. "And I wear this wig. I have no idea what color my natural hair is, but I shave it off so that the wig will fit comfortably. No use having what you can't see, right?" She giggled again, almost as if this was an everyday conversation. "Sometimes I'll walk around naked when I don't want to be seen, so don't be alarmed if you hear footsteps or breathing when it seems nothing is there. It's either me or the ghosts." "Ghosts?" Tilly shrieked, and Eliza jumped in surprise. "Well, yeah," she said. "We've got a few of them, at least 13, and one is a poltergeist. You might get to meet him today. Don't be scared of the ghosts, though. Only one of them is, frightening, so to speak." "I don't understand." "Oh, she'll pop up sooner or later. Now come on, let me show you around and introduce you to people. Obviously you met Raz. He's a little perverted, but don't worry, he won't get physical. Jeremy, on the other hand..." Eliza began leading Tilly through the door she had come through, and she saw a large hallway with more doors. There were more blank picture frames appearing every now and then on the walls. "Jeremy?" asked Tilly nervously. "He's a shapeshifter," Eliza explained. "We've all gotten into the habit of carrying a safety pin with us. If you suspect an object is Jeremy, you might want to poke it and see if it yelps. With items like tampons, pads, underwear, bras, stuff like that, you'll want to prod them anyway. Thankfully, he can only turn into inanimate objects, so you don't have to worry about him impersonating someone else." Tilly was getting very overwhelmed, feeling a little ill. They stopped at the first door, and Eliza knocked. A very handsome, middle-aged man opened the door, and he smiled. His teeth were mildly yellow, his eyes a glittering hazel, and hair a dark brown speckled with a few gray hairs. He also had a modest goatee.
"Oh, Miss Van Houten,"
he said airily. His voice was surprisingly raspy.
"What can I do for you?"
"I am showing our new tenant around," Eliza replied, gesturing to Tilly. "This is Tilly. Tilly, this is Charles Schmidt." When Tilly held her hand out to shake Charles, he frowned deeply. Without warning, he was sniffing around her shoulder, and she froze, absolutely terrified.
She smells human,"
said Charles when he stopped sniffing.
"What can she do?"
"Nothing," Eliza said as confidently as she could. "She's just human. Tilly, Mr. Schmidt and his family are werewolves." Tilly began to feel a bit lightheaded.
May I invite you in to introduce my wife and daughter?
Charles inquired, and Eliza nodded. She had to coax Tilly into the apartment, for she was frozen to the spot. A woman stood at the kitchen counter in front of a coffee pot, and she looked over when they came in.
Miss Van Houten, you're just in time for coffee,
said the woman. She had long, mousy brown hair, tired blue eyes, and her voice was also raspy, as well as her teeth yellowing like her husband's. Thank you, but we don't plan on staying long, said Eliza. I just want to introduce our new tenant. Her reaction was the same as her husband's, advancing and huffing in Tilly's scent.
Human?
She exclaimed in surprise.
Are you sure this is okay, Miss Van Houten?
Oh, she'll be fine, said Eliza with a broad smile. Anyway, Tilly, this is Kathy. And where's Mimi? Kathy pointed across the room. In front of the couch there was a very small girl with short pigtails, her hair and eyes the same color as her mother's. She was curled up on the floor and savagely chewing on a shoe.
We had to give her an old shoe because she wouldn't stop chewing ours,
Kathy explained, and she turned to Tilly.
Mimi is 6 and still in her puppy phase.
She was born a werewolf? Tilly asked, trying to sound casual.
Well, yes,
said Kathy, her brow furrowed as if this was an odd question.
Werewolves are a species. It's genetic, unlike vampires. It's not like we can turn people into werewolves by biting them.
Charles gave a laugh that sounded more like a bark.
Miss Tilly,
he said politely, stirring a cup of coffee he had just poured for himself.
Even though Mimi has a shoe dedicated to her chewing, she'll still go after other shoes, so make sure not to leave your own shoes lying around outside of your apartment.
Tilly nodded slowly, looking back at the little girl. Though quite alarming, she was still very cute. Well, we should be on our way, said Eliza with a smile. Lots to show.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Miss Tilly,
said Kathy, and they left the room.
They are very polite,
Tilly croaked, following Eliza down the hall. Oh, yes, they are extremely well-mannered, Eliza replied. Even on a full moon they're quite friendly. Little Mimi is pretty rambunctious, but she is a puppy. All right, time to meet Monty. She knocked on the next door, but there came no answer. After a few seconds, Eliza knocked again, but still received no response. Guess he's out.
What is he?
asked Tilly as they moved on. Centaur, said Eliza, and Tilly's eyes lit up.
Oh, now that's more like it,
she said excitedly, but Eliza snickered. You won't be saying that when you meet him. She rapped her knuckles on the third door, and it was immediately answered by one of the most colorful girls Tilly had ever seen. She had electric blue hair, vibrant orange eyes that had no pupils, cute doll lips that were colored pink, and was wearing a bright yellow dress. Her skin was pale, but it had a strange shimmer to it.
Hello, Miss Eliza,
said the girl in a strange, tinny voice. Hi, Ashie, said Eliza. May I trouble you for a moment?
I am charging, so I have free time, yes,
replied Ashie, and she allowed Eliza and Tilly to enter. Tilly gasped, seeing nearly the entire apartment was covered in wires, cords, and electrical ports. Following a thick white cord, Tilly saw that it was attached to the back of Ashie's neck. Ashie, this is Tilly, said Eliza. Tilly, Ashie is an android. Her name is an acronym for Animatronic Socializing Humanoid Interface.
Unfortunately, I am a reject unit,
Ashie said sadly, and Tilly frowned. You seem fine to me, she argued.
I am supposed to be a social unit,
Ashie explained,
but I came out clumsy and a bit awkward. Sometimes I have trouble with conversing with people.
Well, I still think you are great, Tilly said happily. She was relieved that not all of the residents were monsters.
You are kind,
said Ashie, returning the smile.
What are you?
Just human. Tilly was feeling more out of place each time it was said. Just then, Ashie twitched, and her eyes did an odd swirling action.
Human?
She squeaked, and Tilly took a step back.
Oh my, I can be friend. I can be a friend. I not will act awkward.
Calm down, Eliza said soothingly. Tilly won't judge you. Ashie was made specifically to socialize with humans, but as you can see, this is why she's considered a reject. Tilly nodded, once again frightened. Anyway, Ashie, we'll let you charge. Come on, Tilly. With a weak wave to Ashie, Tilly followed Eliza back to the hall. This is Jeremy's room, she said as they passed a door. Chances are he's not in there. There was suddenly a horribly disgusting stench, and Tilly covered her nose upon approaching the next door. Eliza knocked. This time, a teenage boy answered, but Tilly nearly vomited when she saw him. The boy's skin seemed to be rotting, and it was tinged a grayish-green and slightly bloody. Some places were off color and stitched up, as if patches of skin had fallen off and then repaired. His eyes were bloodshot, the scleras yellowed and irises black, and he was also missing half of his nose. His mouth was filled with rotting teeth. Tilly could see them clearly because his cheek had a huge hole in it, and patches of hair were missing from his extremely oily scalp. Tilly felt like she was going to faint. "Hello, James," said Eliza, seeming to not be bothered by the smell of death coming from inside the apartment. "May we come in?" James grumbled with a nod, and Tilly followed Eliza into the room. The place was a mess. Mold growing on the walls and carpet, a couple of maggots wriggling on the floor, dark brown stains of dried blood, and what looked like the corpse of a cat that had gotten run over by a car laying in a corner. A woman holding a little baby came up to them, both sharing the same gruesome characteristics as James.
"Hello, Eliza,"
said the woman, though her voice was low and nasally.
"What can I do for you?"
"Just introducing our new resident," replied Eliza, once again gesturing toward the frightened Tilly. "This is Tilly,"
"Nice to meet you,"
said the woman, holding out a free hand.
"I'm Mallory, and this is my infant son, Billy."
Tilly was about to attempt to shake the rotting hand of Mallory, but with a squishy crack, her middle finger fell off.
"Oh, shoot. That's the second time today. Sorry about that, Tilly. And you've already met James, my oldest son."
Tilly couldn't even nod her head. "The Pattersons are zombies," Eliza told Tilly in response to her horrified expression. "Oh," Tilly squeaked. "I couldn't tell."
"My husband Luke took our daughter Bella to the mall,"
said Mallory. "You go out into public?" Tilly couldn't help but ask.
"Oh, we don't go to human malls,"
Mallory explained. "We have secret shopping centers," Eliza added. "Since a lot of us have specific needs and diets, and what with the more shocking appearances of a lot of the tenants, we don't dare venture out into your world. Though some of us, including myself, the Schmidts, and Raz, can pass off human enough." There was suddenly a gurgling sound beneath Tilly, and she screamed as she saw the cat corpse staring up at her. Its left eye slowly slid out of its socket, hanging on by the optic nerve.
"That's Cheeky,"
said Mallory.
"He's our cat."
Cheeky made another gurgling sound, which Tilly guessed was supposed to be a meow. "You'll probably see Mr. Patterson and Bella around, Tilly," said Eliza. "Well, Mrs. Patterson, thank you for letting us into your home. We'll be on our way."
"Have a good day,"
said Mallory. Eliza quickly led Tilly to the other side of the hall. "Ugh, even though I'm used to the smell, it still gets to me if I'm around it too long. This room is vacant." They passed the door opposite of the Pattersons and came to the next one, knocking once more. A girl that looked about 17 answered. She had mild acne mixed with freckles on her pale skin, very thick black-rimmed glasses, frizzy ginger hair, and braces on her large teeth.
"Eliza!"
said the girl. She had a very strong lisp because of her braces. The girl spotted Tilly.
"Ooh, is this the girl you told us about?"
"Yes, this is Tilly," said Eliza. "Tilly, this is Megan. She's a witch." "Oh," Tilly muttered.
"Are you human?"
Megan exclaimed, and Tilly gave a weak nod.
"Oh, this is great. Humans get so excited about magic. Unfortunately, because of my lisp, many of my spells go wrong, so maybe I shouldn't show you much."
There was a loud explosion, making the three of them jump.
"Ah, my potion! Sorry, I have to go!"
The door slammed shut, and inside they could hear objects breaking, and Megan pleading with the potion to not explode again. Eliza cleared her throat. "Moving on." The next room was Raz's, so they skipped it, as well as the one after that, for it was vacant, but knocked on the last door. A decently attractive and clean-cut boy answered, looking about Megan's age. His dirty blonde hair was short and slicked back, and he wore a very nice button-up white shirt and khaki pants. He was not wearing shoes, so Tilly could see his black socks.
"Well, hello, Miss Eliza."
He chipped, speaking with an English accent. He spotted Tilly.
My, what a lovely young woman."
Young woman? Tilly thought. He looks at least 7 years younger than me. "Tilly, this is Toby. Toby, Tilly." "Oh, that sounds cute," giggled Eliza. "He may not look it, but he's about 80-something years old."
87, miss,"
said Toby. He can travel up to the 6th dimension, Eliza continued. I suppose that keeps you looking young?
Either that or I'm just a dashingly handsome lad.
He gave a rather sophisticated guffaw.
My, Miss Tilly, I say you look absolutely normal.
I'm human, Tilly mumbled, for what seemed like the upteenth time. I don't do anything special.
Oh, even humans have their own special talents. They're just not otherworldly, as most would describe them as.
He turned to Eliza and gave a stern look.
By the way, Miss Eliza, I have a complaint about the mermaids. It appears it has become a fad to take turns bathing in our bathtubs. I suppose it wouldn't be so bad if they didn't leave water everywhere.
Mermaids? Tilly squeaked. I'll go speak to them now. I'm still introducing Tilly to everyone, replied Eliza. See you later, Toby.
Ta-ta!
Toby said cheerily, before closing the door. There are really mermaids? Tilly asked Eliza excitedly. Yes, but they can be pretty rude, so don't get too excited, said Eliza dully, and Tilly's smile fell. They went back into the lobby. Did Raz introduce you to Nibbles? Eliza asked, pointing at the cage. The hamster was enthusiastically drinking from its water bottle, but Tilly frowned suddenly. Sort of, she said slowly. What is he? He's a hamster, Eliza replied, leading her over to the cage. Just a regular hamster? He doesn't do anything? Nope, just a hamster. Want to hold him? Eliza opened the cage, and Nibbles scampered up to her, hopping right into her hand. She handed the fluff ball to Tilly, who loved animals, so she was very taken with the rodent. Well, you're a little fatty, huh? She cooed.
Hey, watch who you're calling fat,
said Nibbles in a baritone voice, and Tilly jumped, nearly dropping him. He can talk! Eliza clapped her hand to her forehead. Oh, right, I forgot normal hamsters can't talk.
That's 'cause they ain't as smart as me,
said Nibbles, sitting on his hind legs and crossing his tiny arms.
I ain't fat human, I'm fluffy.
Sorry. Nibbles, you are fat, said Eliza with a giggle. But that's what makes you so gosh darn cute.
But my tiny furry ass.
He was placed back into his cage, where he nonchalantly crawled into a corner of tissue paper and burrowed into it. Tilly assumed he was going to sleep. All right, let's go meet some mermaids. The two of them ventured to another door, but this one was on the opposite side of the lobby. Upon entering the hall, Tilly saw yet more blank frames, but also that there were only 3 doors instead of 8. There was a single door on the right wall and 2 on the left, though the third door was closer to the entrance of the hall. Without knocking, Eliza opened the door on the right. Tilly gasped loudly, hearing splashing sounds and seeing that there was no floor, but an entire pool. Her and Eliza were standing on a sort of dock where the door was, and the water itself looked fairly deep. It was also a much bigger apartment than the others Tilly had seen, and she automatically saw why. Giggling and laughing, there were 7 women basking in the pool, all very pretty, except for one, who was surprisingly chubby. They all looked over at her and Eliza, and a mermaid with long white blonde hair and bra that was as gold as her tail swam up to the dock, looking up at them. She wore sky-blue eyeshadow, crimson lipstick, and her eyes were the brightest emerald green Tilly had ever seen. Eliza, how many times have we told you to knock? The mermaid whined, and Tilly was immediately reminded of the preppy girls from her high school. Well, I'd honor that request, Kelly, if it wasn't for the fact that I just heard you've been playing in our bathrooms, said Eliza sternly. Why do you want to play there anyway? You have an apartment 4 times as big as the others with plenty of water. It was like a dare, said a second mermaid, ending her statement with an upward inflection. This one wore a sparkly blue tube top, and her tail shimmered with different tones of blue and green. Her jet-black hair fell to her shoulders, and her eyes were a dark but flattering gray. The only makeup she wore was thin black eyeliner. Whoever, manages to get to the closest bath without drying out the most times, wins? And what, dare I say, do you win, Molly? Eliza spat. Lily's waterproof nail polish? Molly replied. Yet another mermaid, this one with short, bright orange hair, brown eyes, and orange bra and tail, smirked. She looked as though she was wearing fake eyelashes, and her lips were a baby pink.
It's really expensive,
said Lily, her voice a bit of a snooty drawl.
It's imported from France.
Well, end it now, because you're leaving water everywhere, said Eliza. You have enough space, even your own tunnel system leading to the markets and ocean. What more do you need? Coy, said a mermaid with a silver tail and tight black tank top. Her hair was just a little longer than Molly's, and an ash blonde, falling in very pretty ringlets. Her almond-shaped brown eyes were lined in black and shadowed with light gray, a tiny freckle beneath her lower left eyelashes, and she wore neutral-colored lip gloss. Her nails were as silver as her tail, and very long. It also seemed that she was the only one who enjoyed jewelry, wearing 2 necklaces, 3 bangles on each wrist, a pierced belly button, 1 ring on both middle fingers, and even a hoop around the base of her tail above her fin. Coy? Eliza said exasperatedly. Yes, coy, said the silver mermaid. Isn't the flounder enough? It would have been if Bertha hadn't eaten it, spat Kelly, and the other girls looked to the fat one. She also had black hair, which was a short bob that didn't suit her chubby face. She wore bright blue eyeshadow, horribly tacky pink lipstick, a dark green bra that was almost too small for her, and her tail was a dull jade. Hey, flounder is good, Kay, she said in an oddly high-pitched and girly voice that didn't suit her appearance. I won't eat coy. Can we compromise with goldfish? Asked Eliza desperately. They can grow big in healthy environments, and you girls have astoundingly clean water and take good care of your home. They're the closest species to koi. Will that work? Kelly sighed and rolled her eyes. Ugh, fine, she groaned. Anyway, girls, this is Tilly. She's new here and is a human, so treat her with respect. Tilly, Kelly is the gold one, Allie is the silver one, Molly is the one with the bluish-green tail, Sally has that beautiful pearly white tail, Shelley is the purple one, Lily is the orange tail, and Bertha is the green tail. It seemed like Eliza was going to call Bertha the fat one. The girls all waved rather sarcastically. Sally indeed had a gorgeous tail that was pure white, but shimmered a light pink like a pearl. Her hair was light ice blue and parted to the side, falling over her right shoulder past her breasts, which had white star-shaped pasties as opposed to a bra. Her eyeshadow matched her tail, and her lips were shiny with transparent lip gloss. Shelley's tail had a more decorative fin than the others, and was a pleasing amethyst color. Her dark brunette hair was cut pixie short, and she had a violet streak in her fringe. Her black liner was a little thicker than the others, wearing no lip gloss, but having a modest diamond stud pierced on the side of her bottom lip. Her shirt was also purple, but unlike the others, it was a cut-off t-shirt that hung over one shoulder. She looked a bit more rebellious than the others. Well, we should get moving, Eliza said to Tilly. You'll like the next room. Bye, girls. I'll send in some goldfish sometime this week.
Bye, Eliza,
their mermaids chorused, and Eliza shut the door. My God, they are frustrating, she exclaimed when they were out of earshot. They are so rude and snooty. Sometimes I feel like I'm too lenient with them, but it's just not in my nature to be mean. Tilly wasn't sure how to respond. She had also thought the mermaids were very bratty, and was glad she would never have to converse with them since they were restricted to their pool. However, the mermaids quickly left her mind when Eliza opened the door to the second largest room in the hall.